In this video, I will be discussing trans-related issues going on in the world right now, with possibly triggering subjects surrounding it such as suicide and abuse. Please be aware of this before watching. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Victor here, and today I'm going to be talking about something quite serious. I have a platform, and I don't often use it to talk about things that I think need to change. Mostly because I think I don't have enough people that watch me or people that listen to me to do any difference in the world, and that's wrong. I do have some influence, and everyone has a voice, no matter how small their community may seem. Your voice is important. I'm not the best with keeping updated with what's happening within my community and within the UK or things around the world even. I tend to get locked away in my own problems, and it's something I'm trying to get better at, is making myself aware of what's going on. And recently I was made aware through an Instagram post actually, which I'll put here. Please go and check it out. It's how I learned all about this, and it's ridiculous because it directly affects me. I knew a little bit about what was going on, but I didn't know the extent of what was going on. Recently, Britain's Equality Minister has announced a major government policy change regarding trans rights, affecting a number of things, one of them being banning transition for anyone under the age of 18. The other major thing about this whole policy change is that they are trying to stop trans people from accessing the bathrooms of their gender. Not just bathrooms, changing rooms, any area that has gender connotations associated with it. And this morning I woke up and I realized I had to do something about it. I sat down and I wrote a letter to my MP, my local MP, and it's something I've never done before. I'll be the first person to admit when there's things been going on in the world and someone says the way you can help is write to your MP, I sit back and go, oh, well, that's too much effort. I've been that person that hasn't written to their MP because I've just decided that it's too much effort. And I wasn't going to do that this time. And I always want to be more active in changing things for the better in future. It's been very hard to get past those apathetic tendencies to just be locked inside your home and in your four walls and think, oh, it's all going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. But sometimes things aren't fine, and we need to make a change and make a stand. And this affects me personally, on a personal level. It's not just the UK where these things are happening. All over the world right now, trans rights, and it seems like human rights in general are just going downhill and reversing. And I don't understand why this is happening when we were starting to make progress. Why are we suddenly regressing? But fundamentally, the Equalities Minister, Liz Truss, is expected to publish this change of policy, this document that outlines everything that they have to say, by the end of July. And I wish I'd been more active in my community before and done something before, but here I am needing to do something about this, needing you to do something about this. If you're in the UK, you can write to your local MP like I have done. I'm going to read you what I wrote in a second to give you an outline of what I think is a good thing to say to your MP. It may be not what everyone would say in the same format, but I'm proud of what I said, and I feel like I've said my piece. So you can write to your MP if you live in the UK. If you don't live in the UK, there are still charities you can donate to that will help the trans community. You can use the hashtag #NotInMyName and say why you do not believe in this change of policy and why trans rights and the safety of trans people needs to be a priority. We need to move forward in a positive direction, not in a negative one, and making trans people's lives harder. We need to make them easier. They're already hard as it is. You don't need to be trans to care about this. You just need to care about trans people. You need to care about trans rights, which are human rights. The simple act of you understanding this and spreading the word and knowing that this is happening, then that might be the difference between hundreds and thousands of trans people having human rights or not. You cannot underestimate the power that your voice has. There's been a lot going on in the world right now. There really has. It's been one thing after the other. And it feels like revolution. It feels like if we all band together and show the world what is right and what is wrong right now, it will change things. It's not a fantasy to think they will change. We can change things, but we need to be active. We can't just sit back like I have done in the past and just believe that everything would be okay and let the people with all the power and all the words just decide my life for me and decide the lives of other people, lives that they don't live, that they know nothing about. And I'm not saying get angry. I'm saying get smart. I'm saying forgive people for not knowing about these things before, of not knowing the damage they cause. I'm saying educate people. Don't shout at people. Don't make more hate in the world. Take time to be patient. Let people take a breath. Try to understand where you're coming from and find a way to make connections with these people in a positive and calm way, in a kind way. There's never any place for hatred. You have to be the better person and realize that yes, they have done this thing to our community, but we have to join with them and make sure that it doesn't happen again and that it changes for the better. Even people who have done absolutely horrendous things, the best thing you can do is release them and release yourself from that pain that they caused you. Justice needs to happen, but if at the end of the day you're letting these people just haunt you for the rest of your life instead of trying to help them make change and change as people, then they've won. And you're not going to let them win. And I know this is a serious video and I try my absolute best to always be positive on my channel. And I see this as a positive thing. I see this as change, as positive change, being able to talk about this on a platform. And I want you to think about this. Do my rights as a human being mean nothing to you? Or do they mean something? If they mean something to you, then please consider making a stand about this. And if my rights as a human being mean nothing to you, can you question why? Can you ask yourself why that is? Why have you decided my life is worth nothing? Why is your life worth more than mine? Those are the questions I want you to ask yourself today. And now I'm going to read you my letter. Now, I start my letter by introducing myself with my full name, which I'm not going to obviously release. After hearing about plans leaked to the Sunday Times that the government is planning on reducing trans rights, I felt I needed to express to you how dangerous this could be. The consultation that ran on the Gender Recognition Act showed a huge 70% majority in favour of making things less dangerous and difficult for trans people in the UK. And I've been told the government is proposing to railroad over this majority. This is shocking and utterly heartbreaking to me. As a trans person myself, I cannot even imagine my life becoming more dangerous or daunting. I fear for my safety even with things as they are now. Big changes need to be made in the opposite direction from what the government is proposing. I know it might be hard for you to understand if you aren't someone who is trans, but being who I am is not a choice, and is not something one can suddenly just revoke or choose to get rid of. Information gathered by Stonewall shows that 70% of trans people already avoid some places through fear of being assaulted or harassed, and 65% of those trans people have been discriminated against or attacked. More than 4 in 5, 83%, of young trans people experience verbal bullying, and 35% of trans people experience physical bullying. Almost half, 48% of trans people have attempted suicide at least once. Can you see why the right thing to do is to not roll back on rights, but to move forward and make the world a safer place for trans people? The changes to the Bathroom Act are extremely harmful to trans people. Same-sex spaces are trans exclusionary, and while women do deserve spaces that do not include men, which is another reason to not allow trans men to share these spaces, trans women are not men and should be allowed to share these safe spaces. These laws cannot pass. They would make an already difficult existence even more terrifying. I do not feel accepted by society, and I feel there is not enough education regarding trans people in schools and in the world in general. Why would anyone choose to put their life in such danger? All I want, and what every other trans person ever wants, is to live life in safety and in a world that accepts them. The other issue is the one of teenage transitioning. I'm a man of 25. I started my medical transition at 23. It's hard to look back and think how I would have felt if I had known who I was as a teenager. The only reason I didn't was because of the lack of education on trans matters, but knowing how comfortable in my body I feel now I have medically transitioned, I know it would always have been the right choice, no matter what age I was. Banning transitioning to those under the age of 18 will only raise the amount of young people committing and attempting suicide. I implore you to see why things need to change. What I am asking of you today, please, is that you write to Liz Truss and Boris Johnson as a matter of urgency. I hope that you decide to take a stand and help me and hundreds of thousands of other trans people in this country towards a safer and more equal world. Equality shouldn't mean discrimination against other communities. Equality should be for all. Hopeful and kind regards, Victor. And I left my address underneath and my mobile number and all the usual things that you should leave when you're writing to your MP. I hope that got all my points across. So, everyone, I know you're in the middle of watching this video, but I actually got a response just after filming the main part of this video, and I really, really wanted to read it. I've got it right here for the first time on camera because I wasn't expecting to. I'm actually very impressed I've got a response this quickly. And I did think about this. So they're actually saying, as you may be aware, the Scottish Government is consulting its own proposals to reform the Gender Recognition Act 2004, which is the equivalent legislation in Scotland. And I know that it's different in Scotland, but it doesn't make the fact that it's still an issue in the rest of the UK, and it's why I'm talking about it, because I'm living in Scotland now. I may not always, and I feel like it's important to talk about all these things regarding trans people, no matter where they are. And I know that obviously there are things going on in the wider world, but I know much less about those things. This is still something that's important to me, and it's why I'm talking about it in the first place. But anyway, that's just the first line, because I know that in Scotland it is slightly different, and I did not say that before in the video, but it is true. I do live in Scotland, but this is something that's happening in the UK, so I feel like I need to talk about it. The draft Gender Recognition Bill was published alongside a public consultation on the 17th of December 2019. The consultation closed on Tuesday, the 17th of March. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, work in the Scottish Government to reform the Gender Recognition Act 2004 has regrettably been halted for now, which I understood. I already knew about that. As soon as we are out of the pandemic, the Scottish Government can look at the consultation. The Scottish Government's proposals to reform the 2004 Act will not make any changes to the Equality Act in 2010. The draft bill does not propose gender recognition for people under 16. The Scottish Government are consulting on whether the minimum age for applying for legal gender recognition should be reduced from 18 to 16 and will seek views on what support is needed generally for children and young people uncertain of their gender identity. Right, okay. I'm reading this for the first time. Sorry if it's a little bit, but, I want it to be a fresh perspective. Regarding access to facilities, single-sex exceptions in Equality Act 2010. The Scottish Government supports the single-sex exceptions in the 2010 Act, which allow for trans people to be excluded when this is a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim. This means that single-sex services like domestic abuse refuges or rape counselling are protected, and as are single-sex employment rights in relation to such services and the delivery of healthcare services such as intimate examinations. All service providers are encouraged to know their rights in this area. In 2011, the Equality and Human Rights Commission published a statutory code of conduct which assists providers with understanding the relevant issues. The Scottish Government draft bill does not propose any changes to public policy. Organisations that provide facilities and services such as changing rooms and toilets need to consider carefully how they deliver these and ensure they take account of everyone's rights, including those of trans people and women. Access to healthcare services for young people is important for young people and children who may be uncertain about their gender identity to be properly supported. They should be able to access the right support when they need it and not be subject to any undue pressure about their future. In Scotland, the Young People's Gender Service at Sandyford, in common with current practice of other European centres working with children and adolescents with gender dysphoria, operates within existing guidelines. Gender recognition reform is not about the treatments available to young people in NHS Scotland who are seeking support for distress about their gender identity. The current gender recognition arrangements also do not require an applicant to have had surgery or treatment. The gender reassignment protocol used by NHS Scotland is clear that the criteria for a referral for surgery means people must be aged at least 16, the general age of legal capacity in Scotland. I hope that this addresses your concerns. That's very interesting, and honestly, I did know a bit about the differences in Scotland compared to England and the rest of the UK, but honestly, I'm shocked I got a response so quickly. But in a way, I'm a little bit upset because they haven't talked about the reality in England and the rest of the UK. That's the thing I need, my concerns. I need to be spoken to about that, because that's really the issue here. Because I know that it's different in Scotland. But I think it's important right now that we do spread awareness of this. There needs to be more understanding and awareness of trans issues. We need to change this. And I know that it's a little bit difficult, because in a way they're addressing my concerns, but they're addressing my concerns because I live in Scotland. But everything I've said in this video still stands, and I want to be able to talk about it and say my piece about it, and I think I've done that. So I'm going to take you back to the rest of the video now, but I really wanted to show you that, I got a response very quickly, which is fantastic, and that's why I implore you to contact your MP, especially if you're in England, because I want to know what they say to you, because obviously here in Scotland it is different. I need to read this over a few times and fully understand it, because I get a little bit confused sometimes, I think, by wording and such. So, right. I'm going to take you back to the rest of the video, but I love you, and this video is serious, but it's important, and we'll figure this out. Stay strong. I couldn't rest until I'd made this video. I couldn't rest until I'd sent this email. It's a scary time to be in for a lot of us. But this is something very close to my heart, very, very, very personal to me. And I hope you will post something with "not in my name." Share the information I've shared with you. In the description, I will have a card which has all the links to your MP, how to find your MP, how to write to your MP. There's even an email template in case you don't know what to say, but please try to put a bit of your own personal take on it, because sometimes MPs can ignore emails that look like spam, that look very repetitive. So please edit it in your own personal style. But if you need a template, there's a template there. There's a lot of information for charities you can donate to if you have the funds, and other ways you can help. I've got that link in the description. If you can please check it out and try to help this situation, because we've got till the end of July. We're always finding out new information and new ways for being a better human being in general. And that's something I always want to be able to do, is to always learn and accept my follies and my mistakes of the past. And I hope that everyone is open to that. I hope that everyone is open to learning and open to being educated. Because that's the biggest hope for this world, is that you can keep an open mind. Some people are far too close-minded about things they don't understand, that they've never had personal experience in. And it's so damaging. You need to keep an open mind in this world. But just thank you if you listened this far, if you've taken time to hear what I have to say. And please do something today to change the world for the better. But for now, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.